welcome to Final Fights. I am Mark Monroe Hoffmeyer, and joining me is John Iceman Levengood.
Man, I'm gonna get my butt kicked.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know it for a full hour, but I'm gonna get my butt kicked.
I just want everyone to know that while I'm recording this podcast, I'm also building a really beautiful bridge made of toothpicks while talking about this.
With zen-like calm.
And so, John, I found something out that I'm pretty excited about. I was reading your review for Undisputed, and we love this whole franchise. So when it switches to the second one, Michael Jai White, Scott Adkins, and Scott Adkins, and then Scott Adkins again. But we both can say that we love the Final Fights. Maybe 4 is a little rough, but we love this franchise, correct?
Absolutely.
I mean, just adore it. We're big Scotty Adz fans. We love watching his stuff. And then this first one, there's a couple things I just want to tell you before we get into the Final Fight. So Chris Kelly and I have been working on the Rocky franchise for Final Fights. And I got to tell you that as much as I love all the Rocky fights, this fight between Wesley Snipes and Ving Rhames was a breath of fresh air. Now, it's obviously meant to be a movie. There's moments where they land 26 strikes in a row. They stand in a pocket with each other against one of the greatest Monroe stands in the pocket with Chambers, who's one of the best heavyweight boxers, and they just slug it out. It's very cinematic, but it's also very grounded. So watching Rocky and prepping for that, and then coming to this was a breath of fresh air. And I was reading in your review that you really loved this fight, but you were kind of worried that they weren't keeping score. Like, they weren't keeping score during the rounds. And so I did some digging, and I wanted to know why, like, if there was, why there wasn't. Because in the first fight, when Monroe was fighting the skinhead, there's a ref in there. Michael Rooker's in there keeping track. AJ Merker is in there keeping track of the fight. He's the ref. If a guy drops, they give him a 10 count. But then I started doing some research about this final fight, and there's 4 rounds. And Wesley Snipes gets dropped twice, then he drops Chambers. But I found out that in London prize ring rules, that whenever the opponent gets dropped, they start the new round. So the guy has 30 seconds, and then he has an extra 15 seconds, or 30 seconds and 8 seconds. In this movie, it's 60 seconds. So they get 60 seconds to get back up. And there was a heavyweight bout in 1889 when John L. Sullivan beat Jake Kilrain in 75 rounds. So it's basically you fight till you drop. These guys fought 75 rounds until one guy couldn't go anymore. But then I remember them talking about 12 rounds in this, but I hope that clears up some things for you there, because you kind of said no one was keeping score.
Well, I got thrown because it was probably a couple of years ago I wrote this review, but I think that my headspace was that during the movie, originally, so London Prize Rules implies bare knuckle.
Yeah, but they adapted it, and they adapt it in London Prize as well. So they always made little adjustments to it. But the core concept of it is when you get knocked down, there's a new round until the guy can't go anymore. It's adapted.
I just figured a little more short of a knockout. I just figured points would have come into play because we're using gloves, even though they're just the 6-ounce gloves. But there was a knockout, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, but I guess when you said the thing that kept it from being great was the points, and I was like, oh well, why weren't there points? So I researched this, and I thought it was interesting. I mean, I guess they were just going to whoever won, so I guess they weren't going to go to the judges, and they kept these rules.
Right, there wasn't a set number of rounds.
Yeah, and I guess they had talked about it, but when Monroe goes to Mendy Ripstein, Peter Falk, who gets 2 wonderful monologues in this movie, he's like, yeah, I want you to bare knuckle box, or 40% of the take, kid. And so, I don't know, but then they don't bare knuckle box. It's actually a boxing match. But no, that's why I like about this fight. I really did a lot of cool research about this. Like, I don't know, when you watch this fight, John, watching Ving Rhames, I know he's an actor, he's not a professional boxer, but the way he holds himself, I really love the way he held himself in this fight. He looks like a monster.
And you know what else? This fight looked beautiful. And, we both love Rocky movies. I remember we both were talking about Southpaw after Southpaw came out. We've both seen the Creed movies and all that. We love these movies. And you are really into boxing, and I'm into otherwise fighting, and you're into other kinds of fighting. But when I was watching this, it's not that Wesley Snipes doesn't look like an incredibly proficient fighter, but I expect Wesley Snipes to look like an amazing fighter, because Ving Rhames, every time I watch it, Ving Rhames shocks me with how professional he looks. And he even looks, in my opinion, more true to boxing form than Wesley Snipes, because Ving Rhames as Iceman, he has patterns that I can recognize in his physicality as a fighter. Wesley Snipes as Monroe actually doesn't. Wesley Snipes is too comfortable as a physical actor. So I think that instead of trying to adapt into boxing, he just felt so comfortable. He was just doing it. But I didn't see him favoring a side, leaning too much on one side. You know what I mean? It's not a bad thing. It just, Ving Rhames blew me away. Like, wow.
And he had been training for 2 years prior to this. Because he
pulled a Kurt Russell Soldier, you mean?
Yeah, and well, he was going to be in a movie about Sonny Liston, and he had also been in Don King, so he's around. Obviously, he's Don King, but he had been around the boxing world, so he was training to be Sonny Liston in a movie that never got off the ground. So when Walter Hill picked him up for Undisputed, he was like, "Okay, I'm set."
Thank God.
Yeah, you can tell though. So I think my favorite aspects of these fights. It's 4 rounds. It's a really excellent fight, but I love it when the Steadicam is behind Chambers. So when it's behind Iceman, because you just see how, the way he holds himself. And obviously, he was a lot taller than Wesley Snipes in this. So what they did was, the stunt coordinator had Ving Rhames sort of hunch over. So, I don't know, the fight choreographer, Cole McKay, had Snipes fight upright and Rhames hunch forward in a crouching stance. So he and McKay would choreograph 6 or 7 movements, and then they'd improvise. And so they'd improvise until the tail end of each round, and then they would throw in a couple punches at the end to really box. And they didn't really use many body doubles. So neither actor used a body double. And they said the body shots are real, but real in air quotes. You're not going to take 5 days worth of liver punches. But I don't know, there's a scene in this where I noticed that there's this part where Wesley Snipes overextends on a left. And when he comes back, he puts his hands, as he overextends, Iceman comes through with a right to the body. And you watch some of these fights in Rocky, which I adore. I would give them all 120 out of 100 on a scale. They're amazing. But some of the punches in this Undisputed fight made sense. So you're watching these punches get set up, and you can almost see Iceman thinking. So, yeah, this guy just overextended. I'm going to hit him in the ribs. And I got goosebumps watching it because obviously it's a movie fight. It ends with a salvo of 26 punches, yada, yada, yada. But I really dug that the punches made sense to me. Sometimes you watch this movie and punches exist stylistically, and these punches actually made sense in a boxing world. And I love that about this brawl.
Yeah, you saying that actually reminds me of why I wanted points way back when I was watching this before. I didn't think of it in this. It's because whether or not someone gets knocked on their butt, when they yell out a score, when they filmed this, very little advantage was depicted until someone was knocked on their butt.
Yeah.
That was why. It was so before someone was knocked on their butt, I didn't really know if that was surprising or if, they were already way ahead. Were you keeping score? I'm just so used to the Rocky movies and things like that.
I was keeping score.
You were keeping score.
Yeah, and so I love in round 1 how Wesley Snipes comes out, Monroe. He comes out with this really great looking jab. And he lands some jabs, he's moving. But Monroe, or Iceman, starts landing some real powerful shots. So in every round, I would say Snipes definitely outlands. But Chambers, Iceman, lands heavier punches. So if we're looking at the first round alone, I would have to say that Monroe started off hot. But then Hutchens ends it with a knockdown. And in boxing, if you get that knockdown, most of the time it's a 10-9 round. So I'm going to give the first one to Iceman. The second one, just a lot of straights, a lot of jabs. And I love how Iceman moved forward and they called it a straight ahead locomotive style, which made me really happy. And they were talking about how Monroe tried to switch to a southpaw stance. He switched his stance and it didn't really work. And then again, it ends with an Iceman knockout. And then round 3, I would give to Snipes because he got the first ever knockdown of Iceman. So I keep messing them up. Monroe knocks down Iceman. I give him 3, and then he wins in the 4th which I love. There's no score in this fight, John. So all you get is, you have the announcer talking and the crowd noise. But I love when the score finally sort of sinks in, or some noise manipulation, and that's when Monroe gets rocked, and then it goes to silence. You don't get the announcer anymore. Then you get this beautiful 26 punch salvo by Snipes, and then it goes to black and white, and the dude just falls on his face. So I gave the 4th. So he wins, but it started with the first 2 rounds for Chambers, but then Monroe stepped it up with the knockdown in the third round, and then I'll give him the fourth because obviously he won. And
when he finally knocked out Iceman, it made me think of who was it? When Clive Owen was knocking people out in Cinderella Man, like, yep, brain separated from his skull.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and you know what I like too? Ving Rhames is this big, strong, guy, but he took the role where he loses. But I like when he falls, he falls. When you see the aftermath on the overhead shot, I loved it. I thought the overhead shot was really strong, the way they filmed that. And you know what I kind of like about this fight is I was reading some reviews about this, trying to get some perspective, and I kept reading the same things over and over, and I highlighted some of it. So I read one where Undisputed is a heaping helping of meat and potato cinema. It's just a straightforward movie about a fight at the end. And then Roger Ebert said, there's a kind of pleasure to be had from its directness, from its lack of gimmicks, from its classical form. So I think that's what made me really like this movie. Dude goes to prison. There's two boxers in who are really good. They get Vegas involved. It's not like the Green Mile. They set up a fight. They put betting lines on it, 40-1. They bet on it. A guy wins. He gets out of prison. Like, it's a very simple structure, but it works.
Right. And any complication that could come in, like fixing the fight, bribing someone. No, not Monroe wants nothing to do with people helping him, like pulling a Chung Lee and drugging his opponent. No, he wanted nothing. He's like, if you do that, I'll break you into little pieces.
Yeah, I love that. And he's like, I'm no chicken shit. And they're gonna give him like X-Lax before the fight or something.
Yeah, the Vegas people are like, okay, how are we gonna rig it? No, we're not gonna rig it. Yeah. I'm sorry, it was his little consigliere saying it. It's like, no, he wants this to be a true fight to the finish. But it's like so every time complication could have the kind of things that create. Now, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Great movies do this. It's important to cultivate tension. But like all the things that would inject anxiety into the audience is not there.
I guess think Snatch, right? Where that's covered on one of our final fights, where Mickey is told to lose, he wins. And then the final fight, he's told to lose again, and then he wins. And then you find out it's all set up, but that's the tension right there, right? Because you're like, he shouldn't have lost. But this movie,
you're just like, what are they gonna shoot him? Like, I like this character.
And then this movie just moves straight ahead. And this is random, but the stunt choreographer on this was Cole McKay. He got his start working on Three Amigos, and he was a stunt coordinator on Leprechaun. And he's done about 1 million movies called Criminal Passion, like Body Heat, not Body Heat, but Criminal Passion, Illicit Desires, like a bunch of those.
Oh my God, it's like the witchcraft sequels. They turn into adult like softcore porn, right?
Yeah, and so he's done about 18. He probably worked on all those, but he also did Zombievers, which we talk about on the podcast. He did
Wonderful.
He did Ingrid Goes West, and he worked on The Rundown.
Ooh.
So
now that was loaded with some fun stunts.
So I thought it was pretty interesting the way they worked around this. And another thing I liked about this fight was you watch some fights and it's one punch cut, but there's a lot of 6, 7, 8 punches cut. There's not. I mean, the camera's always moving, so we're looking there. It's basically a fight between Ving Rhames, who was a Mike Tyson-esque champion boxer. He gets in trouble. In the outside world, he goes to prison. In this prison, he meets this guy named Monroe. Monroe is 65, 66-0, and obviously the two fight for the Undisputed Prison Real World Championship, and they fight inside a cage. I do think did you think the camera work, when they're shooting on the outside of the cage did you like that? I liked it more when it got close or from the higher angles.
Yeah. I mean, what I'd call wide angle for a fight is what I want, but the cage was just too far out. That's like when you see the pass and the catch all in one shot in a football game, like across the field. It's too much.
Yeah. Do you think they were kind of bothered by that big cage they had? They're like, crap, we got to shoot through this cage now. But I mean, they do good. I mean, the camera's always moving. The dolly guy got his money, but I liked it better when they were Steadicam inside. Watching these guys throw leather. That's when I really dug it. But yeah, and I mean, did you like the lack of a score? When you do Rocky, sometimes a score kind of starts building. You get the guitar lick in Rocky 4. You get, when he punches him at the end, it sounds like a plane takes off. Did you like the relative silence of this fight?
I never really noticed it, but I think that I mean that in a good way. Like I was just immersed in, this is a movie where, so I took shockingly few notes about this, and I've reviewed it before. I've seen it loads of times. I know we're going to podcast about it, The only notes I wrote were about heights and weights and a couple real world boxers and estimating how many prisoners got to watch the match. Like I which is interesting. So for me though, I got swept away in the experience because, you know, sometimes now you think differently, right? You're really good at dissecting the layers of the filmmaking because of your background. Yeah. Whereas me, when they do a great job, I just get swept away in it. Yeah. You know, so I didn't notice it. I think it's in a great way. I see, like when you said like it went silent, I only realized that now that you're saying it.
It's smart. I mean, so
then I remember when he fell too. Like you heard nothing but him fall.
Smacks on the ground,
like echoing in the room, like it was like a gymnasium.
And I think that's perfect though, because I've been hit. I've had a couple concussions before, man, and I've been hit before. And my thoughts of when I've been hit really hard, it feels like Ving Rhames, like that sound that Ving Rhames hears. It makes sense. Like obviously it's meant to lead the audience to know that the end is coming and kind of guide you there. But I loved that scene and I dig it. And you know what's interesting too? Walter Hill said about this movie. Some say Hollywood movies that are made about boxing are just metaphors for other things. I think I've made one that's actually about boxing and not a metaphor. That's another example of why this is a meat and potato movie. It's just, and you know, he made Warriors. Warriors is about a bunch of dudes just trying to get back to their neck of the woods. It's not. It's
you mean like 1977?
Yeah, Walter Hill. Yeah, Walter Hill did that.
That's him?
Yeah.
Who did this?
Yeah, he did Undisputed. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so I mean, he also helped produce like Aliens. Like this guy, you know, his last big movie was the Axe Fight, Bullet to the Head. Oh, he did The Assignment too with Michelle Rodriguez. But yeah, he started with the Warriors. He did 48 Hours. He did Brewster's Millions, Red Heat. So, but no, I Trespass, which is another fun one. But
is that Treat Williams?
Trespass?
That's
with Snipes, isn't it?
Oh, is it? Maybe it is. Or maybe, yeah.
Oh, wait. Oh, no. Wow. That Bill Paxton, Ice-T, William Sadler, and Ice Cube.
Wow. Wait, Ice-T and Ice Cube.
Yeah.
That's a nice cold drink right there. So you were talking earlier about the discrepancy between the size of the two actors. And I think that most people have no idea. Now, I'm not going to call Wesley Snipes small, but how much smaller he is than people would expect. Because when I remember when I first saw this and they're like weighing in at 195 pounds, I'm like, yeah, of course. Yeah, he's probably like 6 foot, 195. He's 5'9". In his heyday, Wesley Snipes never weighed more than 180. And he weighed 180 always being lean, right? He's more cut than like almost any boxer you see entering the ring, unless you're getting into middle and lightweights, right? But when you get into that like over 185 kind of weight classes, people tend not to be so lean because it's actually harder to keep your energy up for your training. So I thought it was interesting though, because the stats they gave him were a lot like Chris Bird. And I was thinking of Chris Bird when I saw his first fight in the movie when he was fighting the 6'6", 280 guy.
Yeah.
Because Chris Bird, like, he was never afraid of the really big boxers like Lennox Lewis. Well, that was a mistake because Lennox crushed him. But most of the big boxers he wasn't afraid of because they were usually slow, and he'd just work them and chop them down like a tree. But so I was looking at Monroe like that, or Wesley Snipes, but he's 5'9". And I might have known this back when I wrote my review, but like I had to be reminded, like, holy crap, like he's only 5'9". So Ving Rhames, who I believe is 6 to 6'2".
Yeah.
And that
big
ballpark.
Mm-hmm.
So when you were talking about how in the camera shots they had him always kind of hunching over and crouching, that was probably adding personality to his distinct boxing style that I could detect. Whereas in Wesley Snipes, I didn't really see it as much. I just saw a rather symmetrical fighter when I saw, and who's that? No one is that, you know, like, but I saw a symmetrical fighter when I was watching, Wesley Snipes doing his combat choreography, if you will. That was interesting to me. So I got a question, Mark.
Yeah.
For you. And I imagine you're the kind of person who put some thought into this, but maybe you were focused on the fight too much. I don't know. There are 700 prisoners in Sweetwater Correctional Facility. How many do you believe live got to watch that fight?
All right, so the cage is, what do you think, 20 by 20 feet?
No clue.
All right, so let's say the cage.
Sure.
Let's say the cage is 20 by 20. And surrounded on all four sides are, let's see, there's, what do you call them?
There were 4 or 5 rows of rafters.
Yeah, so 4 or 5 rows. So let's say that if it's 20 feet, someone's sitting in, that means 10 people can, let's say everyone squishes in, you can get 15, and then times 5, so 75, and then you have 150, 300, around the corners, that's probably 340. I'd say 340 people.
Like, well, I mean, that's what you could do, but there was one shot where they actually showed a whole side. There were no more than 7 or 8 people in each row.
Oh, okay. Well, then that...
Yeah. So that had me thinking, though. So if you only have 30 to 50 people per side, right? So some might be a little more intimately crammed than others. I think it was 1 cell block for each. How are they choosing who got to watch? Was this good behavior? Because this entire correctional facility was violent crimes and murderers.
It has to be, right? And I think Rooker has a pretty good hold on who should be there. So you had the head of the gangs. They all got tickets. Now, you know what? I bet you Rooker, being who he is, said to the head of each gang in the different prisons, you get to bring 15 people each. Let's just say. So then he gave it out to the gang members to put it on them. So they had to pick their guys. Because you don't want to pick the guys. What do you think?
I gotta tell you, Rooker, no, totally credible. I just remember thinking, like, who gets to watch this? Because it's not everybody. Rooker was surprisingly unslimy in this.
Like, dude, the meat and potatoes. I'm so happy he didn't Green Mile anything.
Wouldn't you? Now, I've seen this movie, I don't know, 10 times by now. And even this time, I had to keep reminding myself, wait a minute. Are they going to beat up, Monroe before they put him in solitary? Does he get beat up and then he has to fight like that? Or then when they get Iceman for punching the crap out of a bunch of people,
puts 5 dudes in the hospital.
Like, I was thinking, it's like, oh, does he get hit in the ribs? Does he get beat in the ribs with a nightstick? It's because you're so used to any prison movie where that's just like requisite. No, there's none of that. You don't ever question that these guys are in perfect health. And neither of them take a punch. Whenever they get into fights with people, they don't take a punch.
Nope.
So you question zero about the validity of this fight, which is cool.
I like how they set up the first fight just by showing how good Monroe is, and then they showed us how tough Iceman is when he drilled those dudes. I love when he beat up all those guys. Just watching a professional boxer work and do all that. But it's just such a straightforward movie, and I think that's why it's so watchable. And I think I'm forgetting a scene where the warden is talking to Peter Falk, and Peter Falk does that monologue. He's like, yeah, we blew up his car. And then the warden goes to Rooker, are you going to do something here? And Rooker goes, I don't want my car blown up. I don't want to die.
Right.
Like, that's normally, if Death Race, Shawshank, any of these movies, the second in command's always just a complete butthole. And Rooker's like, I don't want to die. I just want to run a good fight. I just want to run a clean. Like, these are well-sanctioned brawls.
That's what's funny, because a future episode that we're doing is Death Race, and in that, the warden and the guards are as slimy. They're as slimy as you can imagine, but for the nature of the movie, it's exactly what you'd expect. And this, you just expect more. But I guess at the same time, though, if we're just smart, rational adults, if you're slimy, things are going to slip up. You're going to damage your own fighters, or, things aren't going to work out. You could lose trust in the long run. You want the money to flow. You want a clean operation. It's just that the reality is that the criminals who do this probably aren't going to be that, and the movie making definitely doesn't usually embrace that. Mm-hmm. Like it's like a breath of unexpected fresh air. It's like when someone lights a cinnamon buns incense candle. You expected citrus or cinnamon, and you're like, wait, someone bacon? Wait, no, really? Like, are there cinnamon buns? Are there cinnamon buns?
This is amazing, and also. There's a little bit of an antagonist in this with Iceman, but also Iceman, I love his speeches about just being a boxer. And I like when he's like, people play baseball, nobody plays boxing. I'm an athlete, I'm not an athlete, I'm a gladiator. I'm the champ. People have come up with me my whole life, and this is how I take care of it.
Everybody wants a piece of the champ.
Yeah, and you can probably imagine that. Like, there's a lot of people out there that when they see him and they're standing next to him, they're like, I could take him. And completely...
It's funny, too. They did a good job making him despicable in almost every single scene of the movie, except for when he got that monologue about beating up like 8 people, right? And that's when you finally hear his side. And he's still an aggressive guy about it, but that's what he is. But yeah, he's like explaining that there is actually a fear behind this. This isn't just a bull in a china shop. Like, he feels like he needs to do this. And I see it. I get that, especially in a prison movie, because that's the other thing.
They need respect.
I think that when he punched that really big white power fellow in the beginning, that guy was huge, by the way. When he punched that guy in the beginning, all I could think is, I don't know much about real life prison, but in my head, because of movies, all I can think is, well, you're going to get shanked and die.
That never happens.
But none of the things that would cultivate unease in the viewership of the movie ever happen.
Yeah.
We are ushered with a smile, to our seats for the fight at minute, 64.
It just makes me, I don't know, but I dig this, and I'm really happy that you recommended this fight to me, because I just enjoyed it. I like this movie. I got to revisit it again. So in round 1, that's when if you watch it in round 1, Wesley overextends, and that's where he catches the left of the body. I love that scene, man. And I also love in round 2 when Iceman is just mad. Like, he gets rocked and he's pissed. You can tell he's just mad. And dude, like, Wesley Snipes, his performance, man, it wasn't Demolition Man. It wasn't over the top. It was a very zen, different vibe. And I like that. I like the choice he made. Some people don't like it, but I like this choice. Did you like his choice?
I liked it. I think that people who don't like it might view it as over the top in the opposite direction.
Oh.
He's too calm. He's unrealistically calm. What fighter would be that calm? What person who's killed someone, even though he justifies it, in a line, like that was the one time I lost my disposition. But, I can see someone criticizing the opposite direction of that. But even so, I liked it. He didn't play the card too hard.
Yeah.
It
never felt like acting to me. Does that mean it never felt I'm being calm? Does that make sense?
He was super consistent. Yeah. But again, he had been in prison for 10 years too.
Yeah.
So even though people all respect the champ and everything, our movie might have happened to have been really convenient, but I'll bet that he had his ass handed to him a few times. And then he probably got his due back and eventually earned enough respect, right? But I think that his status was earned in the way that Iceman, we just saw the kind of the tip of that iceberg of what he would have had to go through if he was there for a decade.
Yeah.
And he won those fights, fine, but what if he was there for longer? What if he didn't have special privileges because he's rich? He might have gotten shanked and survived and had to recover. Like, what if that happened to Monroe and we just, didn't hear that part of his story 7 years ago? He probably got cut at some point. He probably got beaten half to death at some point. That's my real prediction of that character.
Remember at the end when Iceman gets out and unifies the belt, and then everyone in the prison starts clapping for Monroe? But as we go into Monroe's cell block, he has about 4 or 5 people standing outside of it. So I wonder if they're loitering around there, if they're protecting him. Does that make sense? What do you think about that?
So we don't know if they were in a position to also see that TV. Yeah. And if they weren't, almost entouraging, they just wanted to be near him because he's him. Were they protecting him? That's a good question. Actually, not that Iceman cultivated a good following. He just cultivated enemies for the most part. Other than Mingo, which is surprisingly alliterative of Mogwai.
I gotta tell you,
not alliterative. A lot of the same letters, though.
I'm always happy to see Wes Studi in a movie. That always makes me happy. And also Ratbag. That's probably one of my favorite names.
Ratbag. That's Fisher Stevens. That's his name, right?
Yeah.
Whenever I see him, I always think of my favorite role of his, which is obviously Hackers.
Oh my gosh, he's so good.
That was a great podcast episode you did on that too.
Yeah, listen to that. That's a good one. But yeah, man, dude, this was fun, man. Thank you so much for joining me. This was a great talk.
For a big change up, I think in the next month or two we're gonna have to do Undisputed 2 and kick some MMA into it.
Oh, I would love that. I'd talk about some Boyka and Michael Jai White. Come on now. You're speaking my language. All right. So for me, Mark Hoffmeyer, And for John Monroe Levingood, this is Final Fights. We'll see you next week.